Rand Fishkin, our CEO here at SEO MOZ, and Nathan, whose last name I'm totally blanking on right now, um,
Latka.
Laka of Lurge here to give you kind of a talk about some social media SEO goodness. It should be a wonderful time. Yay. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, please use the go-to webinar interface to ask your question there. You can just type it right in there, or you can ask over social media. If you're on Twitter, please use the hashtag Mozinar, and we'll be gathering your questions. And also, I heard the Lurge team is having some Facebook fun as well, so if you're over there, you can totally ask them questions as well. This webinar is being recorded once I hit that shiny red button, and it will be available later on our website. Usually it takes about 24 hours, and we'll also have these slide decks uploaded there so you can download them and relive all the fun today. Or if maybe you have to head out for a meeting or something and you have to miss part of it, you'll be able to come back and listen in.
No, no stepping out for meetings. Other things, dental appointments, haircuts, that's fine. Meetings, no.
Playing with your puppy.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'll allow it.
Okay. If you do have any problems at any point with this webinar, or you have any general webinar type feedback for us, you can always email us at team@seomoz.org. And without further ado, I'm going to let Nathan take it away.
Rand, hey, great to be joining you guys and all the Mozers. This is exciting. How are you?
Good, how are you, Nathan?
I'm doing great. I was giving Erica a hard time about I had read obviously a little bit or saw a picture of you last night where there was a completely shaved Rand doing a whiteboard Friday.
Whoa. How do you know I was completely shaved?
Well, we won't go there.
Okay, all right. Just curious. I don't remember filming that Whiteboard Friday. Now, face, yes, but I did have a clean-shaven face. We're doing Movember here at MOZ, so a bunch of us are growing out our beards only to shave them later for mustaches at the end of the month and raise some money for charity.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. Erica shared how pleased she is that there's so many displays of facial hair artwork around the office.
That is the kindest possible way one could put it. I love Erica for that.
Well, guys, hey, I'm Nathan Latka, CEO over here at Lejour. We've just relaunched as Heyo. And the reason for all the Lejourians that are joining right now, the reason I'm so excited to be doing this with Rand is Rand just gets SEO. He's done it, he's studied it, he eats, drinks, breathes, lives it. And I know a lot of you guys that have worked with us to create either your fan page or your mobile app or your website. You're always asking us fantastic questions about SEO optimization. So Rand, if it's okay with you, I'm going to hit first and get right into 3 SEO hotspots specific to fan pages. I think the plan is then to hand it over to you where you're going to really focus in on earning audiences attention without really spending a fortune. And I think my folks are going to learn a lot from that as well. So are we all set? We're good to go?
We are great.
Fantastic. Great, guys. So a lot of folks are reading articles coming through TechCrunch. You see Sheryl Sandberg and Yahoo speaking directly about potential search partnerships. You obviously have Google, who's the search behemoth. The fact of the matter is, moving forward, there's always going to be great SEO opportunities, whether it's through your website, whether it's through mobile SEO or social SEO. So I'm going to focus on first here the 3 hotspots that you absolutely need to optimize on your fan page to drive traffic. I've highlighted a few, just for a visual representation, I've highlighted 4 of those spaces here. Okay, the first that we're going to talk about is the vanity URL you see up there in the upper left. I imagine a lot of you guys either have a fan page or you're thinking about marketing on a fan page, This link is critical. Just like when you set up a domain name and you want to optimize it, this / URL that you can control on Facebook is critically important. We'll talk about that. Second, we're going to jump in and talk specifically about the About section, which you see here highlighted in the middle of the screen. This is another great opportunity for you guys to really focus what you're passionate about. And then lastly, every status update, there's a portion of it that goes directly in and does get indexed by search engines, both through Google and Facebook search. So we'll spend some time talking about that. So first things first, the vanity URL. For any of you guys watching that have a fan page set up, you likely have a URL that is something like facebook.com / Nathans-consulting *1356791. Really hard to market, not a lot of optimization. What you guys want to do to optimize this vanity URL is go directly to facebook.com / username. When you go to that link, you'll have the opportunity to actually change or update your vanity link. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now for folks that may not have that set up already. You'll land on a page that looks a lot like this. Right? Can everyone see this? You'll land here, and you'll select the fan page that you'd like to customize the name for. So let me see if I can find breakthrough amusing. No, definitely not all me. So we'll go in here. Let's find one. Here we go. Sizzling marriage secrets, Rand. What do you think about that?
I do like secrets, and I like marriage. Sizzling, sure, that's an adjective.
Good. So let's say these folks are wanting to optimize around marriage secrets or marriages or counseling or good relationships. Whatever that term is that you want to optimize around, you'd put that right in here. So let's say that this was actually lead gen for marriage counseling. They could type in here marriage counseling. Whoops, spell that right. Check availability. And oh, look at that, it's available. So what you want to remember when you do this is that, again, you can only change it once after you set it for the first time. So make sure you think about what you're optimizing around. You can't transfer that URL. You can't violate, obviously, anyone else's trademarks. And you can't squat on it. And additionally, usernames can be reclaimed for other unauthorized usages. Okay, so they can be reclaimed. So once I click confirm, that would then rename it. And that also makes it much easier to market. So if I was to go to facebook.com / say for us, it's Heyo. The reason we do super easy to market. And then what we do from there is we take steps in the actual page to further optimize. Those other areas look a little bit like this. So the first is the About section. You can think of the About section a lot like kind of the body content on a website. This is an area inside of Facebook where you can update and insert any details about your business that you want. So when we go in to the Heyo page, you'll notice right here, this is the start of our About section where we say generate a mobile app, create a website, all with no code, start by clicking here, and then we have a mobile device. If they're viewing on a mobile device, they can click here. When you expand that, though, you'll see that we've added additional content in here rich with our keywords. So in this description here, you'll see we mentioned many times fan page, fan page, on. Or maybe this, as far as priorities go, you want to get the About section. That's the top level. And then you can get more down here in the company overview and the description fields. Okay, so the About section is really, really critical to further optimizing your page. And lastly, but certainly not least, and this is by far the most, we'll say, I guess, volatile, or the thing that changes most often, that you really have to be intentional about optimizing around, is the status update, right? On Facebook, when you put in the status update, and this is important to remember, the first 18 characters of the update is what is indexed. Okay, the first 18 characters is what gets indexed.
Nathan, is that true for both public and private pages?
That would just be for public pages.
Just be for public pages. Huh.
Yeah. Now, Rand, what example, or give me an example of a private page you're thinking of.
Well, so I don't know. I have a personal like Facebook account, you know, where I just connect with my friends and family, and then I have a public page that's rand.fishkin. But so you're saying that when I do a Facebook update at facebook.com/rand.fishkin, Google's only gets to see the first 18 characters of those updates.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you know how does that behave if there's a link in the update?
Yeah, fantastic
URL.
question. So that's what I was just about to get into.
Sorry.
No, great question. These links, let's use the one that for this webinar, right? Mm-hmm. When we put that in an update, you'll notice here it automatically generates this content from the metadata from that page. Rand, the really cool thing about this, and everyone watching right now, watch really carefully, because very few people know about this, and it's critical. You see when I hover over this, Rand, it kind of turns yellow?
Yep.
If you click that, you can actually go in here and type in exactly what you want. So if you're really trying to focus in on a keyword phrase, again, the first 18 characters, you know, we type in SEO for Facebook.
You know how embarrassed I am right now that I didn't know that?
Oh, don't be embarrassed. It's very cool, though. So
I'm sure the rest of the social team here at MOZ knows, but for my personal page, I've never done that. That's just tragic.
It's a cool little trick, though, right? Super easy. And then the great part is you know, Rand, I always try and relate this kind of back to SEO on websites, and admittedly, I actually don't know a lot about it, but I do know that kind of the header tag's important, and then kind of body content's important. Well, think of this as kind of your social header, mm-hmm. right here. And think of this.
Well, that becomes, if I'm correct, that becomes the page title of the status update, the individual URL for the status update, right? So yeah.
So let me just, I would put in the status update as well, SEO for Facebook fan pages. Mm-hmm. Click here to join us. And when I post this is actually what Rand just referenced. It is a living, breathing organism, right? If I click 2 seconds ago and I click the time link on any of my updates, you'll notice here it's kind of like its own little landing page, okay? So any of these updates that I go back down through, let's find one here, okay? Right here, for example, these are all living kind of on their own page. Think of this almost like a landing page, right? So what we've done is we've actually taken this Rand and iframed it in to certain contests or campaigns to drive engagement on it, which gives this, the title that we've put in, more weight. Now this is specific to Facebook search as well. So it's more specific to Facebook search than it is to Google search, but there's some cool strategies you can use to really, really build that, and that's one of them. Rand, did I use that verbiage correctly as far as H1 and body content and all that jazz?
Yeah, the only thing I think that I'm seeing, so I just did a search on Google for site:/facebook.com/heyo/posts, yep. And then looked at some of the cached versions that Google has indexed of the pages, and it looks like to me that for public pages, public shares, they're getting the entire content like they do, but you're right in that the first few characters of the title obviously are what's being put into the title tag, right? The title appearance on there. So, you know, for example, you know, you've got a post called, let's see, what's this? So this post is called, for example, share this post to help protect your friends on Facebook, and Google's only capturing at the title element, they're only capturing share this post, with yep. Share being in quotes. So they're only capturing that first bit. So they index the whole thing, but you're right in that they truncate the title, which is why those first 18 characters are so critical on Facebook as compared to a normal web page where you get 78 or 82 characters in the title element.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, Rand, I love experimenting live because I love feeling vulnerable. That
Yeah.
thing you just did, can you do the exact same thing except take out posts and search and type milestone instead?
Heyo/milestone.
Does anything pop up in Google?
No, I don't see anything.
Okay, no.
Sorry, so /Heyo/milestone?
Yeah, milestone. milestone.
Nope.
No, okay, I
They
didn't
don't
think
seem to
so.
be indexing anything there.
Okay. I didn't believe so. So those were the three kind of features. And Rand, I'm going to intentionally create some back and forth here before
Sure.
we switch over to what you're focused on, which is, again, earning audience's attention without spending a fortune. And that is, I wanted to, share with people a little bit of the opportunities that Facebook search is optimizing around and really working on. And I want to use a really random example so that folks can understand how it could be applied directly to them. Those of you listening right now, let's say that you are an author or a speaker and you're selling an ebook on energy, right? Getting more energy. I bet Rand and I could probably both use that, but focused on energy. One of the things that you can do in Facebook search is put a quote, a lot like when you do Google searches, so type need energy, and when you click search and go down to public posts over here on the left, it's going to spew out all these people that say, oh, I need energy 11 minutes ago, or I need energy, right, 2 hours ago, I need energy. Now, these are all personal profiles of people that have not blocked their content. The cool thing is, though, Rand, is this is searching every single status update on Facebook, not just from my friends. So it's a great way of maybe testing a title for an ebook or maybe a product or service you're thinking about launching, kind of seeing what the social need is there.
Yeah, this is very much like doing a query inside of Twitter's public search. Obviously, many more Twitter accounts are public, but getting to see this inside Facebook is great too.
Exactly. Now, applying this back to a business, let's say that I was a social media company in San Diego, and the way I made a lot of my money was on maybe ticket sales for a weekly event, or maybe I had some affiliate stuff I was promoting on the blog. Well, watch this. I'm going to search in here. I'll just search social media San Diego. Okay, and I'm going to click this little icon over here, the search icon, and go to all results, and then click pages here. So notice what happens here. I didn't type the name of any particular page. I was just searching, but you'll see here, and this is just pages. Okay, the first one that pops up is the one that the headline is most similar to what I searched. Right, makes sense. But if you go down here further, social media breakfast San Diego. Again, let's say this company makes their money off the breakfast. If you click this, remember we searched social media San Diego. You'll see a lot of things in here that they've optimized, like they've definitely put in their location, right? And they'll also see in here in the about section, social media. It's stated multiple times, social media, over and over, social media. So this is fantastic because as Facebook continues to evolve its search product, the kind of returns you'll generate by putting focus on social media SEO optimization will really, really increase. And I think you'll see increased returns on that. Rand, do you have any predictions? I have my own predictions, but you have any predictions on where social search is going based on trends you've seen in maybe the Google search market?
Well, so I would say that I think Facebook has been pretty upfront and open about the fact that they are not going to be investing in broad web search, but that they'd like to find other avenues and ways to use social for discovery, for interest, for guiding people towards potential things where they have interest. I don't ever see them. I don't see them in the next few years trying to compete with Google. I think there was a story the other day that the Independent or the Guardian in the UK had put out
The
about
Guardian. Yep.
Yeah, about how Facebook was talking to Yahoo, and of course Facebook and Yahoo both put out statements to Kara Swisher at All Things D that was like, no, that's crazy. We're not doing that.
They're still suing each other.
Yeah, it's not happening. So I think that we're going to see a lot of interesting things happening inside Facebook, inside Twitter, inside Foursquare, and all these kinds of things. But I don't see them overtaking something like a Google as a broad search destination. I think they're always going to be very specific. What I do find fascinating, I mean, what you just showed there that's super cool to me is next time I go to San Diego, which is tomorrow, I can do a search for SEO San Diego and find groups that are doing cool SEO stuff in San Diego and potentially reach out to them and say, hey, I have a breakfast open, maybe we can get together and chat. This is a great way to potentially do some networking. And what's cool about it, too, is I can see how popular all of these are.
Yeah.
So the social media day, San Diego was like, had 600 plus likes or whatever. So that would be a very worthwhile one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the cool thing is you can do this through events as well. Okay, so nothing's popping up. But there's a lot of different ways you can use this. I'll finish up with a story of a realtor friend of mine named AJ Yeager, who is a real estate agent in New York. He's in Austin now, but he was having troubles, Rand, moving his listings in New York. So I worked with him and I said, you know what? Let's leverage Facebook search and some of the optimization you've done to figure out how to get those listings moved. And what he did is we went in here and we played with verb combinations. So we tried move and moving to New York. Clicked the search button and went to public posts. And what we saw was a lot of people who saying, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm thinking about, like, I want to move to New York. Don't want to move to New York. So if we can move to New York or New Jersey, I wish I can move to New York. You'll scroll through these and you'll see some people saying, "Hey, I'm so excited! Got a job next year. I got to move to New York."
Yep.
If they need a job, obviously they need an apartment as well. I want to move to New York City. And it was interesting as we played around with kind of verb combinations in social search. The different kind of emotional states that folks like this were in. So, for example, if we searched moving to New York, there's obviously a much more urgent need if that apartment need hasn't already been met. So some really interesting stuff, I think, happening in social search, and it really starts with the fan
some
page
interesting
at your
Facebook
hub.
updates happening, too. That's
Yeah. It really is amazing.
Jeez.
So great. So what I'm going to do now, Rand, is toss this over to, or maybe Erica, can you facilitate the presentation heading back Rand's direction?
Yes, I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to steal your screen.
Awesome. Nathan, that was very cool. That's fascinating stuff. I feel like I need to spend, despite my general preference for other social networks over Facebook, I mean, it's incredibly popular. I need to spend some time digging into Facebook.
Well, and Rand, I think in all fairness, I think we'd all be kidding ourselves to say that it's the strategy and system is built out completely. It is definitely much, much younger and more immature than, say, like Google search market is.
Gotcha. Good to know. All right, cool. So can I control this with?
Yep. You should be on it. You should be controlling it right now.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Howdy, gang. Good to have you with us. Nathan, thank you very much. That was incredibly informative. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet so that we can spend some time on Q&A. And so what I wanted to talk about with this presentation is a very personal experience that we've had around earning customers here at MOZ. And you can get this slide deck online. But so let's start out by talking about true love. And true love means different things to different people. It can be things you love to eat. Maybe it's things you love to watch. Maybe it's people in your life. That's true love for me. But I know some things about true love. Two things in particular. Number one, it lasts. And number two, you can't buy it. You can't buy true love. So I think that we can make marketing more about love. I don't think marketing needs to be this practice that people hate and reject. I think that marketing done right earns customer loyalty and customer love, and that includes all the things that go along with marketing: traffic, attention, engagement, purchases, loyalty, referrals. So let's try and reverse out and talk first about buying customer love, right? Just going and paying. So there's two problems with this that I see, two big ones anyway. One is click distribution, right? So if we go to standard search result, or we go across the 3.5 billion searches that are performed on Google every day, right? There's a little bit of clicks here, a little bit here, a little bit over there, but by and large, according to Google themselves, only 18% of clicks go to paid search ads. 82% of clicks go to the organic results, go to the SEO results, right? So this is true across the web. It's not just search, right? Where are newsreaders clicking? Well, they're not clicking on the ads, right? Ads are lucky to get 1%. In fact, they almost never do. How about tweeters? Well, when we're on Twitter, right, it's promoted tweets and there's the sponsored trends, but no, right? I mean, these aren't getting, never mind 1%, they're not getting 0.1% of clicks, generally speaking. And Facebook, the very best Facebook ads out there that I've ever seen do, maybe 4 or 5% for a couple of days, and then they generally drop below 1%. Most Facebook ads are doing dramatically under 1%. Even great Facebook ads are usually doing less than 2%. So, but wall posts get tons of traffic. So the way I see this, we've talked for a long time in the marketing world about how the advertising industry is shifting from offline to online, and you see all these charts from Forrester and eMarketer and these kinds of folks saying, look what's happening. Look at the shift from spend on TV, radio, print, billboard, magazine, all these old school style medias, and look at the dollars shifting online. And I think to myself, yeah, that's pretty smart. But then I look at where clicks actually happen on the internet, and I go, what? Why? Why do we spend, a fortune on 10% of the traffic? Right? I mean, $40 billion of investment this year alone in just the U.S. for what's going to earn 10% of clicks, and maybe a grand total of $5 billion of investment in content, social media, and SEO combined on to get inbound traffic, which drives 90% of clicks. And so this dichotomy seems crazy to me. And what it suggests is that if you're a marketer who invests in inbound, you can really, really win. Another big problem I see is that the cost of acquisition around paid makes it less than compelling a lot of the time. So I'll introduce you to some friends of mine from Reddit. You might know Scumbag Steve and Good Guy Greg. They're pretty popular. So, Steve, he's going to interrupt your day, sell you some stuff you don't particularly need. And to do it, he's going to buy traffic with ads and links and maybe spend, an average of $500 to acquire a customer. Greg, on the other hand, not only operates in a more sort of earned manner, in a more generous manner, waiting for you to be interested, but Greg is also spending far less than Steve to acquire a customer. Because of that, this means that the delta, right, that Greg can now spend $400 to improve the product, improve the team, add more customers. This just makes sense. Makes tons of sense. And then the third problem, customer loyalty. So, I think a great example of loyalty that's built is built through branding. It's built through earning your customers, not through buying them. And I'll give a couple of examples of this. So one of the stories I love talking about is Harley Davidson. We did a MOZcation in Wisconsin at the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, which was tons of fun. And the Harley story is fascinating to me, right? Because Harley has sort of earned customer trust and loyalty throughout their history, right up into the late 1960s. And then in 1969, they get bought by AMF, which you might know from if you ever go to bowling alleys. They're on AMF is the logo on all of the bowling pins and the machine equipment there. And so AMF buys Harley Davidson in I think it was 1969, and they essentially start overhauling the process by which bikes are created. And in that process, they make it a lot more efficient. They save a ton of money, and they turn the bike quality to crud. Like, seriously, Harley Davidson has the worst motorcycle ratings of any of the major manufacturers, and all the car magazines and all the ratings, in consumer reviews are constantly rating, Honda and Kawasaki and all these other manufacturers as being much better motorcycles. And what happens during this period until about the mid-90s, when Harley is bought back from AMF by some of the directors there, is that customers continue to buy Harley Davidson bikes, and they put bumper stickers on the back of their bikes that say, "I'd rather push my Harley than drive your Honda," which to me speaks volumes about the loyalty that's been built, right? The true love that their customers have, the love for the brand. Basically, I don't care that the bike is broken or that the bike is not as good as these other ones. I'm going to continue to buy it anyway because that's how I feel about this brand, right? This brand is important to me. And this actually relates a lot to SEO MOZ. So in September of this year, SEO MOZ, for those of you who are pro members know, we had a really rough month. Right, we had a bunch of our tools and software, our rankings. We're down for 2.5, almost 3 weeks. We had some problems with our MozScape web index. We had some problems with the keyword difficulty tool and getting data out of Google's AdWords API. All sorts of things, just crap time. And I sent an email to our board of directors. To Brad Feld and Michelle Goldberg and the folks who are on the board, and I said, "Hey, gang, I think this September might be so bad," because we knew at the beginning of the month when these problems started happening that it was a perfect storm, and that it was going to take our engineering team a long time to fix a lot of these issues, and so we knew we were going to have significant downtime. I said, "I think this might actually kill our annual goals. Like we might not hit our numbers for this year because September is going to be such a bad month. We're going to lose a lot of customers because people are going to be so disappointed in the data and services being down." And what actually ended up happening is at the end of the month, we took a look, and yeah, I mean, we had more customers leave us than in an average month, but in fact, loyalty was quite high. September was a relatively good month for us. We actually grew in our customer count in paid customers. And I remember, Joanna, who's our VP of customer acquisition and retention, and Jamie, who's our CMO, and I are sitting around going, what explains this? What explains the fact that, the service was down and all these things were going wrong? Can we get some data back from our customers about what this was? And the answer at the end of the day was SEO MOZ customers would rather push their pro account than drive competitor X, which is really, really humbling and fascinating to see. And even more interesting than that, the customers that we'd acquired through inbound, through the blog, through our RSS feed, through email marketing, through content and SEO and social, those customers tended to stay with us, not only in this particular crisis, but overall much longer than customers we acquire through paid marketing. And we do about 18-20% of our customer acquisition through paid, but paid has far less loyalty than organic. So we know 3 things now, right? It lasts, true love, it lasts, it can't be bought. You've got to earn it. You've got to earn it, right? The clicks are not going to paid. The acquisition cost is far higher, and the loyalty is much lower. Choosing inbound just makes a lot of sense. So, in addition to providing some broad overview, I also wanted to get into some of the lessons, the specific lessons that we've learned here at MOZ about all of the inbound channels: content, search, social, community, email, CRO. And so I've divided them up into these different sections. So let's talk about some content stuff first. Number 1, when we first were featured in Newsweek magazine all those years ago, back when they still printed Newsweek magazine, Newsweek magazine was still a thing. One of the things that I realized is, oh my gosh, there's going to be so many new people learning about SEO. This was December of 2005. There's going to be so many new people who've never really heard of SEO and don't know what it is. learning about it for the first time, they're going to need a guide, a resource. So I better build what became the Beginner's Guide to SEO. And that first version was really just built out of the empathy for people who are going to be finding out about SEO for the first time, and I figured they would need it, and it's become one of our most popular resources. That process, figuring out what your customers are going to need or what people are going to need, and then building it for them, even if they're not your customers yet, really valuable. Another thing that we found fascinating over the years is that, you know, innovation is not always the key. Sometimes, if you improve on something that already exists, you can do tremendously well. So this is Vaughn's one-pagers. He does one-page summaries of a bunch of different topics about all sorts of things on the internet. And for a long time, you know, this resource, this guide, in the early days of SEO was something a lot of people referred to, probably still do. And, you know, I thought, wow, you know, this is all right, but I wish there was a better one. And so we actually made, you know, our ranking factors survey, and now our ranking factors correlation studies along with that. And that's, of course, been a huge document for us. So between that and the Beginner's Guide, probably the two most trafficked resources on the SEO MOZ website. Another thing that was weird to realize is that the value of branding, from, you know, doing things like Whiteboard Fridays, from doing things like, oh, sorry, we got a bit of background noise here, but doing things that get a lot more engagement. So Whiteboard Friday is really interesting because those videos actually get less views, less overall traffic than an average blog post that's sort of written, that's just you know, visuals and text. But the engagement from that and the rate of return visits and the value of the branding there is much, much higher. So it doesn't always pay to just look at raw traffic. You have to also realize the engagement level that your content is creating and the likelihood that people are going to be returning. Big lesson for us on that. Number 4, so for those of you who don't know, my early career in the late 90s was as a Flash web designer. I was not a good one, as you can probably tell, but I still use an old copy of Macromedia Flash to make a lot of my graphics. And yet, even though they're kind of crummy, right, it's just like, oh, look, here's a page, and it's linking to another page, and I'm going to point with an arrow, and here's a Google bot that I built out of 5 squares and some lines. These graphics do tremendously well, and visuals just outperform raw text a lot. So even if you don't have, you know, creative designers who can do wonderful work, try some amateur graphics. This stuff works great. You can see another great example from, you know, some cat images that I've put into a very popular presentation on SlideShare around creating slide decks, in fact. And this sort of stuff just works. It's weird, but it works. Number 5, so one of the things that we've seen over the years is that sharing our success with other people works well, but sharing our failure, that really works well. That's what it turns out. So when I write about, you know, failed venture capital funding or mistakes that we've made in SEO or content experiments that didn't work, or, you know, we did a Google Plus experiment trying to change some rankings and that failed. It didn't seem to have any effect at all. That type of stuff is fascinating to folks. They love reading about failure, and I think it's because it's so rarely talked about. All right, so some search stuff. Obviously, I'm very passionate about SEO. And one of the things that's really interesting is that as we've been studying particular search results, not, you know, if you look overall at the generic, you know, who gets the most traffic on the web, yes, the #1 ranking still gets the most traffic, but click distribution is not just based on ranking position anymore. There's so many things that go into it. People care a ton. They look at domain biasing, right? Bing did a whole study about how people are biased by domains, and they look at the domain name, and that often predicts traffic. They're biased by things like the rel author profiles, the you know, the video XML sitemaps, all those visuals that make their way into the search results. And so I strongly encourage folks to make your search results stand out, not just rank well. 7, if you make other people look good, they will make you rank well. So this one's really interesting because travel blogs is an incredibly competitive search, and travelblog.org, travelblogs.com, some of the other folks in here, Travel Post, have done a tremendous amount of work trying to rank well for this query. And then there's the Telegraph and Elliott.org, and these guys actually haven't done a ton of work to try and rank well. Like they're not out there doing link acquisition, they're not out there trying to promote, but they did one thing that's genius, which is they made a lot of other travel bloggers, travel writers look good. And because of this, many of the travel bloggers who are featured, I mean, there's only 12 travel bloggers who are featured in that Elliott.org article. The reason it ranks so well is not just because the 12 bloggers themselves linked to it from their site, although I think almost all of them, or 10 out of 12 of them did, but because they also included in their professional biographies, meaning anytime that they're mentioned anywhere on the web, that bio links back to Elliott.org, to this particular page, which is what makes it rank so well. They've essentially enlisted an army of influential travel bloggers to make their site rank well because they make those travel bloggers look good. This is a very smart strategy in SEO. Number 8. So this is more of a cautionary tale. I've seen us do this a bunch of times where we'll essentially write stuff or publish stuff on our site that cannibalizes something that was ranking well and getting high engagement with something that suddenly targets those keywords and ranks well but doesn't earn very good engagement, or doesn't provide a very good user experience, or doesn't convert visitors very well. And Internet Explorer did a kind of a terrible job with this. So they had one of their crummy sort of internal pages that's not really the landing page for IE9 outranking the actual landing page for IE9 because they were targeting the same keywords on there. And by the way, when you click those, if you're in Windows 7 or above, it gives you an error message. You have to go somewhere else. And don't do that. Make sure that you're looking at which pages are ranking well and determining whether those are the ones that you actually are getting the most value from. If not, you can always use something like a rel canonical to point it over to the correct page. Number 9, sometimes, weirdly, it's actually better to do SEO on other people's pages. Look in here. So notice that Eventbrite and SlideShare and a Fast Company article, those are doing very well, right? That's a guest post on Fast Company. So it is very wise if you notice that there is a site that has, incredible domain authority, and you can put up content that you probably wouldn't be able to rank for on your own site. Go ahead and leverage the power of other people's sites until you build up that domain authority yourself. This has been an extremely powerful technique for us. SlideShare is one of my favorite. Google Plus now. Google Plus URLs are ranking particularly well. So making sure to use the the star element so that you can get those titles bolded in your Google Plus posts, sharing links in there, putting up content on there, especially if you have a relatively well-followed Google Plus account. Those do pretty darn well. One of my favorite examples of this, by the way, is when you're doing not just reputation management, but also looking at what can help influence your brand. So this is a hotel. So this hotel was called by the Sydney Morning Herald one of the world's best hotels. In fact, there's another link on there that actually says, "Is this the world's best hotel?" And yet, that link is ranking for their name, but it's ranking at the top of page 2, meaning no one ever sees it. Imagine the power if that ranked right under, it ranked number 2 or number 3, so that everyone who searched for Bushman's Kloof would actually see that this hotel was named one of the best hotel in the world by this newspaper independently. Oh man, the value there is just incredible. You got to be mindful of what's appearing on the front page for your own site, for your brand too. Number 10, so I talked about this in the last Whiteboard Friday. I think that co-citation is going to be part of the future of anchor text. So it's not that anchor text will disappear entirely, but I think anchor text will be a weaker signal going forward because Google recognizes how manipulated and manipulatable it is. And co-citation, which is essentially looking at when are words connected with brands. So if lots of people who go to Open Site Explorer also search for backlink analysis, and backlink analysis articles often mention Open Site Explorer or link to it, And when Open Site Explorer is talked about, it's talked about as a backlink analysis tool that will actually influence the rankings and how well Open Site Explorer performs for the term backlink analysis. It won't just look at the anchor text that's pointing to it, which makes a lot of sense from Google's perspective, makes a lot of sense for searchers too. And then finally, Google has a really spooky nose for quality. Remember, they have Google Analytics, they have Android, which is the largest mobile browser share now. They have Chrome, which is the largest browser for the web now. They have Google AdWords and AdSense, which are installed. Well, sorry, AdSense, which is installed on more websites that feature advertising than anything else. Google knows everything that happens on the web, and because they have so much detail in their systems, they can figure out when people are happy with the pages they visit and when they're not. Because of that, you've got to have a page that makes people happy. You've got to have a site that makes people happy, or you're not going to win in SEO long term. So some social stuff. Sharing matters, and sharing matters a lot. But what time to share and how many times you're sharing and what you share matters too. So this is from the follow along tool, and you can see here that only 6.5% of my followers are online at any given time, which means I should probably be sharing more than once in a day, and I usually do. I try and share a blog post 2, sometimes 3 times, at least at night and in the morning when I know a lot of followers are online. The format and phrasing is huge too. So one of the things that I have noticed, just analyzing my own account, is that when I have this format, you can see here like text array of any of the shares that I do versus something like a tweet that contains @replies and then a link next to @replies or a link next to hashtags. I think that's because the link gets a little bit lost between the other elements that are clickable in the tweet. Just having that one link, that tends to perform the best for me. And you should be testing this stuff for yourself too. Number 14, so pictures, visuals, these work really well on both Google Plus and on Facebook. And Nathan, I'm sure you've seen this type of activity too, where instead of sharing a link, we share a photo and then add a link. This has just been incredibly valuable for us. And I'd urge you to check out that format to consider cropping and uploading an image rather than sharing a link and including the image by default. These tend to get a lot more likes and shares and +1s on Google+. And number 15, when you're engaged in social, just sharing your own stuff, it does not work very well. What we tended to see, unless you're a huge brand and you sort of have all these PR controls and legal controls and that kind of stuff, engaging with others, sharing the content from other people almost earns you this karmic memory that then can be exchanged at later times. So if you're sharing lots of stuff from other people in your community, in your ecosystem, they will then be much more likely to share your stuff in the future. Follow that boomerang effect. All right, so some community ones here. Weirdly enough, in the world of community, I know we're all web marketers, but the real world has turned out to be much more powerful in a lot of ways, especially from a branding perspective, from a loyalty perspective, from a creating an impression perspective, than the virtual world. This is one of the reasons that we do MOZcation. This is one of the reasons that I travel so much and speak at a lot of events. It just turns out that being in person with someone has a much stronger impact. One of my favorite examples of this is I didn't realize how influenceable I was to this kind of thing too, but I went to Dublin recently. I spoke at some events there, and of course I'm in Dublin, so I go to the Guinness Brewing Factory, right, which is just a short walk down Dublin. Beautiful, by the way. And I have this great experience there, and I loved it, and very enjoyable. And then I came back to the States, and after a few weeks I noticed, man, I sure am ordering Guinness a lot. Like, why is that? And it's because I feel this personal connection. Like, I'm not special. There's millions of people who've been to the Guinness factory, but somehow I feel a connection. Like, I've heard the story, I know how Arthur Guinness started it, and I took the tour, and so now suddenly the beer is more appealing to me. I can't really explain it, but I know that I want to order it more when I'm in bars, and I think that's a real world experience, having that branding impact. Be aware when you're dealing in community that your community is often much bigger than just what happens on your site or what's happening with your Twitter account or your Facebook account. I would urge you to go out onto the web and find communities where your brand, where your site, where your topics are being discussed, and to engage there as well. So for us, this includes places like Quora, it includes lots of the forums and blogs in the SEO world. And just putting a few comments, just replying, just saying thank you for the mention, just saying, hey, this is another great article from someone else on this topic, that can really positively engender you and your brand to people in your community and make it more likely that you'll earn all the other kinds of attention and awareness that you want. Another thing that we've seen with community, if the first time someone interacts with you in a community setting, so the first time they @reply you in a tweet, the first time they leave a comment on your blog, the first time they like something on Facebook from you, if there's no response, that is usually the last time you'll hear from them. And I see this all the time. I'm guilty of it myself a lot of the times with like my personal Facebook page and my blog, where I won't go in and reply to comments quickly enough, and I'll see that that person just doesn't come back. They feel like, yeah, no one's paying attention, I'm out of here. And I think that's a very natural feeling. So if you have a relatively small community, you're starting out, try to make that engagement happen with everybody. Some email lessons. One of the biggest lessons that we had with email is that deliverability was actually a huge problem. We had a mailing list of almost 500,000 people about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago almost, and our deliverability rates were terrible. Like MailChimp wasn't actually getting all of our email to people because we hadn't emailed them relatively frequently, and because many of the people hadn't double opted in. They'd had a single opt-in rather than a double opt-in. The engagement was low, and the report spam clicks were very high, and so we were actually not even reaching, I think less than 70% of our audience was actually getting our emails, if I remember the numbers correctly. I would urge you to check out Return Path. They have some cool tools. This is a great infographic that they offer about this, about what determines deliverability. And they actually have some tools to check whether your server and your emails are being delivered. And then they have a sender score that you can compare and see. And Return Path does this for a lot of different services. I think both Gmail and Yahoo use Return Path. And so this is a great way to find out if that's a problem for you. Newsletters that have your, so our old newsletter, the old SEO MOZ newsletter, I think it went out like once every 2 to 6 months. It was not very consistent. We sort of weren't on top of it, which contributed to deliverability problems. But also, we had this issue where all we did in our own newsletters was talk about ourselves and our own content. And then we got smart. We switched to this new format where the MOZ Top 10, and the MOZ Top 10 usually has 1, maybe 2 articles from SEO MOZ, but tons of articles from other people around the web. And because of that, they all link to it, they share it, they love to be mentioned in there. It goes out to a couple 100,000 people. And so lots of, you'll see that search engine land, when they get mentioned, they'll get a traffic bump of 18,000 visits from day one. And so that's just really remarkable for them. And of course, that means they encourage people to sign up. It's just a beautiful karmic cycle. Last one, conversion rate optimization. One of the weirdest things that we found is that people have this psychology of, oh, well, if I throw in all these different things, well, you get this and this and this, oh, and you also get a free coupon for, I don't know, a toenail clipping. That's probably, you probably but you get this idea like people will just throw in everything in the kitchen sink. Actually, research has shown that there's something called the presenter's paradox, where if Vince were just selling the ShamWow by itself for some price and wasn't also tossing in 20 extra things that nobody really needs and that people think are valueless, they would actually think more highly of the ShamWow and be more likely to pay more for it. So they did this test with a cell phone company that was selling like an electronics company that was selling an iPod, and they sold the iPod. They sold the iPod plus a free case, and they sold an iPod plus a free case plus 2 free downloaded songs from iTunes. And the one that people valued the most and that had the highest conversion rate was the iPod alone. Like, the addition of the free case cheapened the value of the iPod. So fascinating conversion stuff. Also, there's this myth in CRO that it's all about just testing different things, throwing stuff against the wall with landing pages, testing tons of different stuff. And actually, this does not produce optimal results. Changing a button color is not game-changing conversion rate optimization. But if you can figure out what your customer objections are, right? So we had an initial landing page, and then we had this long scrolling landing page. This is back in 2009, and there's a good case study on it from conversion rate experts there. But the delta between these was huge, and the reason isn't because a long scrolling page always works better. It's because our customers who were coming to MOZ had objections. They didn't understand the product, and they didn't know why they should be signing up. And the second page, that long page, answered those objections, and because of that, conversion rate optimization increased. But you have to understand what makes your buyers buy and understand what makes some qualified buyers not buy, so you can overcome those objections. That's really game-changing CRO. Worked very well for us. So what do we know about true love? It lasts. It can't be bought. You've got to earn it. Oh, and by the way, anyone, even college dropouts like me, can do this stuff. It can be done. My last tip for this is don't give up. Right, so we had a long struggle. I had a long personal struggle with with debt, with years of sucking at this stuff and not making any money and not really taking home paychecks. Thank goodness my girlfriend, now my wife, paid my rent. But this stuff takes time. That's why so few people invest in it. I think that's why you see 90% of the clicks and only 10% of the spend on inbound, is because it's easy to give up in those first few months of investing in inbound and hard to stick with it when you're not seeing results, but that's how this stuff works. All right, thanks everyone. I'm looking forward to some great Q&A.
All righty. I know, Nathan, you had something else that you might have wanted to talk about?
No, I got it in before we transitioned over to Rand, so I just,
okay,
this is
awesome.
Great.
Cool. So we'll kick off with some Q&A. Remember, guys, if you are online on Twitter, you can ask us questions just by using the hashtag Mozinar. It's hash MOZINAR. You can also ask questions through the GoToMeeting interface. And I know a lot of you have been asking, if we're recording this, where it will be afterwards. And yes, we are recording it, and it will be uploaded to our website, seomoz.org/webinars. And you'll also be able to download the slide decks as well. Okay, so definitely have a lot of questions.
Let's go lightning round.
Lightning round, okay. So someone says, let's start at the beginning when we're talking about vanity URLs. Someone says, do you still need 25 likes to get a vanity URL?
Yeah, so the answer to that is no. So anyone with any amount of likes, as long as your page is published, can go to that URL and get that vanity URL.
Sweet.
Someone else also asked if they had heard that you can't change your vanity URL if you have more than 200 likes. Is that still true?
Yeah, so it's more than 100 likes now, and you can't change it.
Oh.
Now, I can say if they're in a dire situation, I've got some links that I'll be happy to send out where you can talk directly to Facebook. And if it's some crazy scenario, I have seen it where they'll go in there and actually update that for you or fix it.
Cool.
Margie wanted to know if your tips on Facebook page optimization could apply to personal pages as well as fan pages.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know what I know, and I certainly know what I don't know. I am obsessed with small businesses and fan pages, and I've not put in the research and time into optimizing around personal pages. So I would guess and say yes, but that's certainly not a concrete answer.
We've had a couple of questions from a few people. This one comes from Mark directly, though, about keyword stuffing penalties on Facebook, and if you've seen some SEOs abusing that, and if they've been smacked down by Facebook.
I like the idea of going and keyword stuffing all of the Facebook pages, so like Facebook gets penalized by Google. That'd be hilarious. I'm not suggesting you should do that. Don't do that. But
well, I think maybe it was about Facebook's own
right.
search.
Oh, got it. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, no, I have not seen that. When it comes down to it, Rand, I think you hit the point. When it comes down to it, if you're a good community manager and you're answering and you're making people fall in love with you and obsess over you and seducing fans in the most polite way possible, people, I mean, you're gonna get ranked where you need to get ranked. So I wouldn't worry. I certainly wouldn't go in there and stuff things into the about section or status updates or things like that to optimize that way. Just be natural, and you're going to rank where you should rank.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about Facebook too is people will judge you very, very harshly if they see tons of what looks like keyword stuffed,
Yeah.
terms and phrases on a page. I mean, that's going to instantly make people run away from you and not trust you, and you'll lose engagement, which on Facebook, as I understand it, is far more important, right? Getting likes and shares, getting distributed. Having people spend time on your pages, that's going to be far more important than having the keyword 4 extra times in the first paragraph of the about section.
Yeah, exactly. And Rand, I think you hit on something that will continue to kind of be blurred as we move into the future. But Facebook actually has its own kind of search algorithm, which people have termed edge rank, and it's constantly
Yep.
changing. And that's really what's most important, is making sure that Google's search feature in the homepage on Google, you say the first page of results, is a lot like kind of the news feed, except Facebook is trying to build on kind of an algorithm that will show those social results, let's say, above the fold in the news feed, because it's really an endless scroll. So optimizing around things like engagement. Again, this is very high level stuff. You can get deeper into it, but at a high level, great engagement, great content, make people love you. That's what it's about.
Cool.
So VPN would like to know about using open graph tags for shares and for SEO.
Cool. Nathan, do you want to speak to that, or?
Rand, you want to speak to that one?
Well, so I mean, the only thing that I would say about it is that OpenGraph, Schema.org, the rel author tags, all of the different options around things like recipe search and different XML types of data that you can put into a page. I would say that there is value in these, but they are varying and constantly changing. So, for example, using the OpenGraph tagging to be able to make pages more accessible, to be able to get the content that you want into the link, to get the right image into the link that's shared on Facebook, that kind of stuff is good best practice. But because it's changing so frequently, I wouldn't say that it's sort of cemented in stone like a lot of SEO best practices, at least not yet.
Yeah, and I'll latch onto that, Rand, and say I totally agree. The part of the I've heard some people invest very heavily in open graph optimization, and you're seeing big brands that are competing for verbs. Netflix and Hulu will compete for the verb watching in the open graph, and that's obviously critical because it's a social action, which then regulates things like the feed. But yeah, if you the thing is again, it's so much different than Google, and that it really is constantly changing. So you can make a big investment, say with a consultant or something, to help you optimize around that, and then it'll change next month, and that's obviously not a good position to be in.
Absolutely.
Call Rand if that happens. He'll help you out.
No, don't, please. No calls.
Phone. Who uses the phone
Yeah,
anymore?
what is this phone?
So Alex says that he has a small business, and so he has less resources, manpower, and money, and he wants to know if there's a few simple things that he should be focusing on to grow his Facebook.
Yeah, what was his name?
Alex.
Alex? Yeah, so for Alex, it really depends on what he wants to get out of it. I ask this question all the time to people, and some people will tell me, I care about likes. Other people will say, Nathan, I want to put a custom app in Facebook that drives around a Thanksgiving contest, right? And they care about building email leads. Really what it is about is answering that question. So if Alex's CRM and backend is built around, say, an email capture form, or maybe you're more e-commerce focused, maybe you're a SaaS vendor, and you're built around Salesforce. That's what runs all your back-end stuff. So you want to collect data that feeds into Salesforce. It all depends on what the goal is that you want to take from your page. And Rand, I don't know about you guys over at SEO MOZ, but one of the things we tell our users always to focus on in the Heyo family is to focus on getting an asset that they own, which is the email, which can then be used to do things like webinars or customer engagement down the road, regardless of what Facebook does.
Yeah, I'm sort of interested in your perspective on this, Nathan, because I know that a lot of folks are, now using logins through Facebook Connect, and so you capture some information, but not necessarily all of it. I mean, what would be your recommendation in terms of people who are considering email capture versus a Facebook Connect?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is there's actually still a lot of resistance to Facebook Connect, because when that screen pops up about the permissions and things like that, or the validation to start, it's just a red flag for a lot of people, even because they don't understand, right? People don't understand that a Facebook Connect has access to some data but not other data. And they just think, wow, I was just messaging my mom about something really private last night. Does this Facebook Connect thing mean that this site gets access to that message, where I confessed, what parts of, well, we won't go there, but you get the point. It's a knowledge thing. The consumers and the general consumer market doesn't understand what it means when Facebook Connect button gives the company access to X but not Y and some of Z. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think it's definitely about email captures. We have folks right now, we've partnered with a few folks like Aweber, where people can put their email capture form in the fan page, collect the email, but we're seeing a lot of folks, or a few folks, start testing out where
Do you have any examples of those?
Oh yeah, of course. I can show. Oh, I don't have this. Well, I don't have the screen,
can
but
you switch over to.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you can flip that or not.
Make him presenter.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I haven't seen the email capture on a Facebook fan page.
Yeah, so let me show you. So Kim Garst is she's actually a Fortune, a Forbes top 50 social media influencer, and what she's credited a lot of her success to is on her fan page. Whoops, you'll see the main driver that she's driving folks to is right here, this sign up now button for social media updates.
Yep.
And I mean, look at this ratio first off. Do you see this?
Yeah, that's...
So how she does this is she'll get folks here signed up with this email opt-in that you'll see.
Huh.
We'll let it load. So see it here, right?
Yep. Fascinating.
And what she'll do is she's got a big list. Well, she ties all of her content, blog content, everything, back into these status updates, right? So you'll notice on a lot of it, like 78 shares, 123 people, 5 folks.
Yeah.
She'll sometimes run social campaigns directly to. Oh, let me go to it. Directly to this. Like to this landing page. It really is like a social landing page. So if this had a specific link in it or a call to action, she'll email market back to this page to drive this engagement, and then use this as a sponsored story or sponsored post. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, that email capture inside the Facebook page is very interesting, because it's almost, you can use Facebook itself as a lead capture mechanism rather than having to drive people off Facebook to somewhere else, which is, really interesting to think about from a marketing perspective.
Rand, one of the questions actually that would be really interesting for you to take a stab at is, there's a lot of folks that are doing the following strategy. They'll take this, and let's say that SEO MOZ was that you wanted to sell your products through Facebook. Mm-hmm. They would take this, and then they'd go in and let me just get in here real quick. They'll use, now you're obviously familiar with iframes. Well, what they'll do is they'll use an iframe tool to pull in those products into the page. And a question that always comes up is, Nathan, how does this affect SEO? And I'm no expert when it comes to Google and SEO on that end, but can you provide any color to what iframes do, or do they affect SEO at all?
An iframe is essentially going to be perceived as a page that exists on the domain where it's coming from, not where it's embedded.
Okay, can you say that one more time?
The iframe content is going to be perceived by Google as content that exists on the domain and the URL where it's coming from, not where it's embedded. So if you embed a YouTube video in 50 different places, that does not mean that YouTube now has 50 different new links, unless
Okay.
you're also separately linking YouTube page.
Okay, so what if it is a mix? So if you put again, let me do your pricing plans, and you put those in here,
Mm-hmm.
and then you made just high level changes to this. You said I wanted to add to these social pieces. You wanted to put in just something let's say a like button, like next to each of those prices. Say right
So
here.
that like button is probably going to be seen as being part of Facebook, but the iframe behind it with the content from SEO MOZ, that's not going to be perceived as being part of the Facebook page.
So
At least not by Google.
So that wouldn't drive.
It won't be indexed as being on that page, right? So an iframe is essentially like, what's a good example?
Just a window, right?
Exactly. It's a window. It's like, oh, we're not actually in Mexico. That's just a picture of Mexico on the wall.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. Yeah, interesting. That's great to get your feedback there. So yeah, so sorry, the point I was making there is there's some people that are skipping the email opt-in altogether through Open Graph, and they're just putting their product right in the app, and they're saying, people are comfortable in Facebook. Let's not take them out of Facebook even to capture the credit card and purchase. So we've got there's a lot of people doing that.
So Celeste has a question kind of along this line. She's a little frustrated right now because EdgeRank has gotten pretty crazy lately with brand pages. And she wants to know if you have any tips especially for Facebook pages that are just starting out, to make sure that your posts get viewed by more people. And maybe, she may not have the budget to, throw a bunch of money behind that.
Yeah. So I'll tell Celeste this right off the bat. We just relaunched as a new company. When we started with Leisure, it was way easier. We were getting way higher engagement rates than we currently are on updates on the Leisure page. Now that we're kind of restarting as Heyo, we're finding it so difficult. And you guys have probably read the stuff in the press about, is Facebook intentionally messing with EdgeRank so that people will pay for sponsored stories and all of this. And really, my recommendation, Celeste, to you would be to focus on, who are you benefiting? Like, a lot of times the best answers to getting the best out of the system is just doing what feels right for your user base, because that book's trying to build algorithm anyway. Like, the incentive structure for them to make sure they're showing the content that you create that is truly valuable is very high. So they'll continue to do that. And I mean, as you know, a lot of things that affect, or at least are rumored to affect EdgeRank are related to time decay, which you can't control. That's just how old the status update is. The next is weight, which just means, again, at a very high level, add the amount of comments, likes, and shares a status update gets. So this one would have 21 plus 2, so it'd be a 22 weight. And then additionally, affinity score. This one's kind of where there's a lot of gray line. That has to do with how engaged is the potential viewer with that fan page. Are there friends of that potential viewer that already like the page? Did that potential viewer like the page 2 months ago? Or things like that as affinity score. So Celeste, what I would say is, if you have one person that likes your fan page, you should cater every piece of content to that one person. Get them coming back, commenting, liking. Really, just ask them what they want. What can I provide you that's gonna give you value, right? So if you're a jewelry manufacturer and the person says, I'd like more clear-cut crystal sapphires from the Himalayas above 3,000 feet, put an ebook together about sapphires and Himalayas and 3,000 feet. So that's what I do, is hyper-focus on what your users want, and the rest will take care of itself from an optimization perspective.
So we are unfortunately going to have to wrap up our webinar. We still have a bunch of questions from people, but your questions have been captured, and so we'll be able to go through them, and maybe we can put together some sort of blog post.
Yeah, we're going to be forcing Nathan to write a a big blog post about all the questions that didn't get answered. Sorry, Nathan. I hope
Hey,
you don't.
on it. I'm on it.
More work.
Yeah.
So thanks once again to both Nathan and Ran for
And
being
to Erica,
here.
bravo, great job.
Erica and Jen and Ran, thanks all for all of you guys for doing this. This was fun.
Megan here in the room with us.
Megan, yep.
Q&A. Thank you.
Yes. So you guys, if you want to check out, we definitely have more Mozinars coming up here. Our next one is going to be next Tuesday, the 27th. We are going to do foreign language SEO, the new long tail SERP, and that's going to be with Zeph Snap. So it should be great, and you should come and join us. That's going to be at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And just as a reminder, all webinars are recorded, and the recording and the slide decks will be available later at seomoz.org/webinars. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Woo! Yep.
Bye.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.